Now about the life cycle of Myxobacteria. So I told you that it shows two phases. The vegetative cycle, when ample nutrients are available, they can grow either saprophytically, or they can go in a predatory manner, wherein they are going to feed on other bacteria, lyse other bacteria, and feed on the nutrients released by lysis of these bacterial cells. So when sufficient nutrients are available, when growth is favored, so the vegetative cells will reproduce by binary fission, and they will continue reproduction with generation time of 3.5 hours and reach very high cell densities. They typically show a behavior which is known as swarming. Now, you must have studied about swarming growth in case of Proteus vulgaris. Have you seen swarming in case of Proteus vulgaris colonies? In your first year BSc, do you remember you have seen
Yes,
Proteus?
ma'am.
Have you seen Proteus vulgaris? Yes. So it is a motile gram-negative rod-shaped organism which shows, which is highly motile. So it shows swarming. It spreads on the surface of agar. Similarly, Myxobacteria also show swarming growth, and they spread on the surface of agar, but they are not flagellated. This is a very interesting feature. They are motile, but they are not motile due to flagella, but they show motility using a totally different mechanism, wherein they will use pili, fibrils, and slime. Like slugs migrate on the trails of slime. Similarly, these cells, they migrate on the trails of slime. I'm going to show you a video later on wherein all this is filmed. So it is a very interesting video. So they will show swarming, and the colony, whenever nutrients are available, the colony will spread out. The swarmers will be present at the edge of the colony. From the edge they will migrate, they will move out, and they will come back. So they show this swarming type of movement, wherein the cells continuously move forward and backward. So you will see this movement also in the video which I'm going to show later on. Nutrient depletion, if it is there, then it might result into either entry into the stationary phase followed by death phase, or if the cell density is sufficiently high, and if solid medium or solid surface is available, nutrient depletion will result into entry into developmental cycle. If developmental cycle is followed by the cells form aggregates. The aggregates will turn into mounds, and mounds develop into fruiting bodies. So, in presence of solid surface, they will show swarming or gliding motility. Two different types of motilities are shown by these organisms, not only in developmental cycle, but even in vegetative cycle. But particularly in developmental cycle, they show what is known as social motility or S motility, and in vegetative phase, they show A motility. In developmental cycle, both these A motility and S motility is seen. Amotility is known as adventurous motility, and because it is because of the ejection of slime from the rear end of the cell. S motility is because of type 4 pili, which get anchored on the fibrils which are present on the cell in front, and the pili are retracted, so the cell will pull itself forward. So there are two engines, A engine and S engine. A engine is responsible for pushing the cell forward, whereas S motility or S engine pulls the cell forward by retraction of pili. We will see the details of this type of motility in coming slides later on. Now they show cell-cell interaction, which is known as quorum sensing. Now quorum sensing is a phenomena wherein the organisms which are involved in quorum sensing, they communicate with each other by production of small molecules which they will secrete outside the cells. Now these molecules are sensed by some specific proteins which are present on the cell surface of the same cell as well as similar neighboring cells. Once a threshold concentration, that is a concentration which is responsible for inducing the change, that is the concentration which is known as threshold concentration. So once a threshold concentration of such a signaling molecule is reached, it will result into shutting off expression of some of the genes and inducing expression of the genes responsible for developmental cycle in case of Myxobacteria. So quorum sensing is a phenomena wherein bacteria communicate with each other so as to know the cell density, whether a particular cell density is reached, and they communicate by production of small signaling molecule. Many gram positive and gram negative bacteria also show quorum sensing. We are going to study more examples of in fact you will come to know that all bacteria which are growing in nature show quorum sensing. So quorum sensing is a sort of universal phenomena, and bacteria talk with each other with the bacteria of the same species. Not only that, the bacteria of different species but belonging to same genus can communicate with each other, and crosstalk between different genera or unrelated organisms is also seen. So this phenomena is known as quorum sensing. Now, once quorum sensing is there, next step will be aggregation, so as to form mounds, and then which will be followed by development of fruiting body where spores are produced. So the I told you that in few cells will show developmental autolysis and they are responsible for formation of stalks. They will produce a large amount of polysaccharides. Myxobacteria are known to synthesize extracellular polysaccharide, and which is responsible for the uh, formation of stalk which will absorb water, and that is the reason why the stalk will get elevated above the surface. The survivors which do not show autolysis, they will develop into spores. So in fruiting body they will be formed as myxospores. Now, these are the stepwise diagrams. So, this is the vegetative cycle. This is how the swarming colonies will appear. This is electron micrograph of the fruiting bodies. So, if a spore germinates, it will result into uh, continuous binary fission. So this is vegetative cycle. If it is exposed to starvation, it typically forms what are known as waves. We'll see these wave formation also in the video which I'm going to show you later on. So this wave formation is responsible. So the bacteria which are approaching from opposite directions might collide with each other as shown here. They form aggregate, then which will be responsible for formation of mound. You can see the arrow, as the arrow indicates, streaming within the mound also, and which will then finally result into formation of fruiting bodies. So this is actual representative diagram, and these are actual diagrams. So this is a vegetatively growing colony. This is an aggregate mound, and this is a fruiting body. So this fruiting body actually appears like this. So let us now go ahead. So I told you that bacteria shows swarming. So swarming is seen at the edge of the swarm, that is the colony which is growing from inside to outside. The cells will migrate from the center towards the periphery. So where more ample nutrients will be available, and hence there will be less competition for nutrients at the edge. And the swarm cells, they are continuously in motion and they interact with each other to avoid collision with each other when the two cells are moving in opposite direction. uh, they will not collide with each other, but they will slide past over each other. And this is how they will avoid collisions. So they will migrate for some time, maybe together, and then they will separate from each other. Many a times the bacteria are seen to reverse their migration, direction of migration, and this is what they do for avoiding collisions. Now, this will take place when they are growing vegetatively and when high cell densities are reached. So, when the food supply is outrun or exhausted, then cells will change their behavior. The swarm will stop expanding outwards because now nutrients are not available. The reason for migration from center to the periphery was in search of nutrients. But when the nutrients are exhausted, they will retreat and they will start migrating inwards. Then they will form, as I told you, waves, and then they will form mounds, and they will build hundreds of fruiting bodies with hundreds and thousands of spores.